Do you want to feel stressed until you snap? Why am I crying? Stop. I wasn't really anticipating getting emotionally bullied by a book at 11 p.m. while laying in my bed. It's like watching a lot of Law and Order episodes at once and then realizing, hey, maybe I shouldn't have binge watched this because all of this is bleeding together, and also this guy over here is literally bleeding and my brain is fried. Hi, my name's Rachel, and recently I read some things. I know, it's weird for a book channel. That's so unlike me. Who am I? This is a case for the FBI. One of the books was about a Sherlock Holmes level detective and his protege, and then one of them was a girl solving the mystery of what terrible stuff is happening at her foster homes plural actually, and the other is a guy hoping to solve the mystery of why am I constantly getting bit by a mosquito? That's the best I can do to try to make a theme for this video. Themes are certainly effective marketing tools. You know what does have a theme and is an effective marketing tool? My website. The theme is cutesy. And you can create your own website with the help of today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. Squarespace can help you make exactly the kind of website you're looking for to market yourself or your work or whatever it is that you sell, and stand out in the vast ocean that is the internet. Squarespace is an all-in-one website building platform that makes it so easy for you to have a professional, beautiful looking website of your own for you to create or sell your wares or talk to your audience. Maybe you are an artist who sells bookish related prints, or maybe you're an author looking to market your books, or you're an editor looking to market your editing services, or you're a beta reader trying to find authors to work with. Whatever it is that you do, Squarespace can help you showcase and market your goods and your services, or your website can just be a place for you to talk to your audience and show all the different places that you are on the internet. My website is readswithrachel.com. It has all the places that you can find me. You can join my book club Discord from there. I have FAQs and a contact form. Squarespace made this so easy for me to set up because I have no idea what I am doing when it comes to a website. Squarespace has great templates that make it so simple for you to just customize according to your preferences. So whatever it is that you do, whether you are an author, editor, artist, or even just a reviewer looking for a space that you run entirely to put your reviews out there, Squarespace can help you make a beautiful website customized to your preferences, even if that includes selling your merchandise. And it's totally fine if you have no experience with e-commerce, because Squarespace has e-commerce tools and a customer service that you can utilize without having to worry about things like inventory and shipping. Whatever your online presence is, or your business, or both, Squarespace can help you organize it, market it to your audience, and help you find your place on the internet. For a free trial, go to squarespace.com, and when you are ready to launch, you can use the QR code on the screen or go to squarespace.com/readswithrachel for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/readswithrachel. The link is down below, and thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. We are discussing 3 books today. I have a cup with all of the books that I read and all of the little papers. I wrote them down, and I'm going to pull them out one by one and talk to you about them. The books that we're going to talk about are Angeline Boulley's new book. Angeline Boulley wrote Firekeepers Daughter, which I loved. Sisters in the Wind is her newest book. We're also discussing The Borrowed by Chan Ho Kei, which was a review request from my patron Choco, and also we are discussing The Mosquito by B.A. Paris, which I have no idea why I picked it up. I just did. I read it. And it was a time, I'm not going to put them in order. I'm just going to let fate decide what we talk about first. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to let you see it first. It's like half of a, is it on my side or your side? I don't know. It's The Borrowed by Chan Ho Kei. All right, so The Borrowed by Chan Ho Kei was, again, a request from Choco. Thank you, Choco. It's a crime novel composed of 6 interconnected novellas about this one guy. It's set in Hong Kong, and technically it's going backwards. So the last story is of the 1967 leftist revolution, and the first story is set in 2013, so we go backwards. Each section dives into a standalone case, so like you could read one or the other, but you should read it all together because they are interconnected, so like other people from other stories pop up, and there's like a, oh, that guy at the end moment. So it's narrated in reverse chronological order so that you can have those kinds of moments. You get a couple perspectives, but it's mostly about this legendary detective called Kwan Chon-dok and his protege, Sonny Locke.
You think you'd make a good detective? I think I'd make the very best detective. Do you know why? I understand human nature.
It is pretty ambitious to write a book this way, specifically a crime novel, because it explores 6 decades of Hong Kong's, well, 6 crimes that happened in Hong Kong, investigated by Kwan and sometimes by his protege, Sonny Locke. So we head backwards in time. We start in 2013 on Kwan's last case, sort of, and we go back to 1967 in the end for one of his first cases, which is a really clever narrative structure that sets it apart from most like conventional mysteries. It also brings up things that happened in Hong Kong during this time, like actual historical events, like the what happened at Tiananmen Square. I do like the narrative being set up going back in time. I thought that was really interesting, where we're like gradually peeling back these layers of Kwan's life and his career as we further go into the past, especially because when we meet Kwan, he's dying.
I try to avoid transferential relationships with dead people. It's always so one-sided.
So its series of these interconnected crime stories feature Kwan constantly being 6 steps ahead of everybody, a la Sherlock Holmes. I compare him to Sherlock Holmes, but I would compare like the overall book, its episodic setup, to Law and Order, because of, again, the episodic nature, but also it's like episodic nature of solving a different crime in one city. And like the long running TV shows, like the interconnected shows, it explores the intersection of like law enforcement and the rest of the city that we're in, like the people and that the law enforcement agents are supposed to serve.
You good?
Oh yeah, man, we're real good. Oh, by the way, you're under arrest.
What?
And like local politics. It's really about like the city itself becomes like a really important player in both Law and Order and in The Borrowed. So each case is self-contained. Like you could easily just slip in and watch an episode of Law and Order and not know much about the characters. I think that all of us were probably introduced to Law and Order via doing this. Nobody really starts Law and Order at the beginning. You like see it in a doctor's office and you watch an entire episode. You're like, I might go home and watch all of that. But you do get a little more out of it if you know, like let's say if you're watching Law and Order SVU, you get a little bit more out of it if you know Benson and Stapler, right? I forget the guy from Law and Order Criminal Intent, but you get a little more out of it if you know his, his personality. But like the city is a big deal in each of these like series, right? So Law and Order, like them running around New York City, is a constant every single episode. And so like Law and Order, each case is self-contained. This book has a setup where it's like each case is self-contained, but also feeds into like this larger portrait of a place, which in the book's case is Hong Kong, and a profession, which is policing over time, how it changes over time. And the novel definitely earns points from me for its very intricate plotting and its mechanical depth, but I didn't like the pacing of it. Even though these were short stories, sometimes I was kind of wishing for them to just be over and get to the next one, hoping that each one would be better. The first one was really good and really well paced, and yet the ones after that I felt kind of took way too long to get to the point. And I like the pacing in Law and Order episodes. We have the same thing in every Law and Order episode where it's like snappy dialogue with briskly moving cases that sometimes have a curveball at the end. The Borrowed takes a more cerebral and slow path to tidy up its narratives. Sometimes it spends like a kind of significant amount of time setting up historical backdrop, but this felt like detrimental to the narrative momentum because a lot of it wasn't sinking in. It didn't really feel organic. It sort of felt like listening to a documentary about Hong Kong on tape. Felt a little dry. And again, this is a series of 6 short stories, and yet the book is so long. It was like a 19-hour audiobook. Each case unfolds, pretty slowly, but the ones that I thought were boring outweighed the ones that didn't. And so I ended up just feeling like I remember the most about the first story and the last 2, and those I felt moved at like a fairly good pace. Well, the last one I felt took a little bit long to wrap up the bombing plot.
What kind of idiot would put dynamite in the freezer? I know it's just a couple sticks.
But the second to last and the first stories, I was like, this is perfect. If we keep this pace the whole time, we'll be golden. But we did not. Because again, I was really surprised by a short story collection that's a 19-hour audiobook. So each case unfolding so slowly with sometimes meandering through political context and backstory that, while it is informative, it bogged down the momentum and sort of like drew the narrative to a halt because the way that the information was being conveyed was not super interesting, and I ended up forgetting most of it. You could argue that this book does a similar thing to Law & Order additionally, which is it's kind of like that ripped from the headline style that Law & Order does. Several stories are clearly inspired by real events, which is super cool, but because the borrowed lingers on explaining those historical events in a way that is so slow and book on tape kind of thing, where it's like nonfiction book on tape, like a history lesson from a textbook kind of thing, you can have like entire chunks where it feels like nonfiction audio. So sometimes you'll be reading this wondering if it's supposed to be like more intellectually satisfying than emotionally gripping. But I will say that character-wise, like when it wasn't doing narration about historical context and like background context, when we were actually hearing from the characters, it was very interesting and compelling. Quan himself, super cool character who you're interested by. He's a very Sherlock Holmes kind of guy where, again, he's 6 steps ahead of everybody, which sometimes felt like, all right, I don't know how you knew all of this, and I just find it like kind of like every single time you knew way ahead of everybody, and this is kind of getting bogged down by constantly being in the dark, and that got a little frustrating, which I've had happen to me watching Law & Order too, and even in Sherlock, like the BBC one. But I like Quan. I like his relationship between him and his protege Locke. The procedural elements are obviously like very well researched. Police setup in Hong Kong seems to be a little bit different than the United States, but there are some similarities, so there wasn't too much that I needed to learn, but what I did learn was interesting. But what was like the crimes themselves didn't always spark the tension and the urgency that make watching a lot of episodes of Law & Order very gripping.
What's going on?
I'm not the one who stabbed the captain with the pickle.
There are, again, the first story was, it just blew me away. Like, it was so good. And the second to last story was my second favorite. Most of what happened in between those, I just felt completely bogged down by. Even though there are Easter eggs, because these are interconnected stories, there are Easter eggs for other people that pop up later in the story, before in the story. How do you say that when you go backwards in time? So things that are popping up later or earlier, depending on how you look at it because of the timeline. It honestly is like watching too much Law & Order at once, I think. But you can't just read like one story here or there because then you lose track of like the Easter egg stuff, which I think was like what the author is banking on you being like, the Easter eggs. That person is this person from the other part of the story in the other story. It's all connected. But like I said, it's like watching a lot of Law & Order episodes at once and then realizing, hey, maybe I shouldn't have binge watched this because all of this is bleeding together, and also this guy over here is literally bleeding and my brain is fried. I don't want to spoil too much for you, but the first story was, again, so like captivating. Quan is dying. This is their last case together, him and Locke, and his protege is solving the murder of a patriarch of a family. And this was fascinating because every layer, he did it, no, she did it, no, he did it, was so juicy. And I never could have guessed where it was going to end. And Locke is the main investigator in this. He's really the only investigator. I mean, he's the investigator in this particular crime. Quan, not so much, but we see at the beginning that Locke is the kind of investigator that he is because of Quan's tutelage. And then we go back in time and like see how that happened. And I really could never have guessed where this particular story was going to end. And I mean that in a positive way, because the who of the whodunit has already thought all of this way out, and they think that they have made this situation complete, like they're untouchable. But you learn how smart Locke is, and that is entirely because of Quan. That was so fascinating. I was in after that first story. And then the second story hit and I'm like, where's the juice? Where did it go? And there's another story that has like a similar bad guy type, which, you know, there's parallels between like how Locke takes down one bad guy in one story and how Quan takes one bad guy down in another story. but it's just like, I've already seen this and I wanted something a little bit different. I don't know, a different kind of you know, villain. And I also didn't care at all about the villain's motives the second time around or first time around. How would you, because the timeline, I don't know. So it just didn't pack the same punch as, you know, seeing it when Locke took down a similar villain. So then it took until towards the end where there is a crime regarding a kidnapped child and a ransom, and the book finally had my attention again. I love a good kidnapping and ransom story. Clock is ticking, I'm feeling the urgency again, and that's when I started feeling like, all right, I'm locked into a good Law and Order episode here again. The last story, I really feel like the only reason that I liked it is because we switched POVs, which was fun, and I needed that, but then like there's a reveal of who the POV character is in relation to the rest of the book, and you're like, oh, wow. But that's all that really wowed me about that particular story and its conclusion, and that's not enough for me to be like, wow, amazing detective fiction, 5 stars. I'm giving this one a 4 because I do again think that the narrative structure of going like back in time and giving context that way is really smartly done with a lot of intent. I just wish that I had more fun with this in that middle chunk. It is what it is. All right, let's see which one we're talking about next. All right, let's see. It's Sisters in the Wind by Angeline Bowley. Oh boy.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So it's not a secret that I'm a big fan of Firekeepers Daughter by Angeline Bowley. So Fierce Reads emails me and they were like, hey, you like that book. Want to read Angeline Bowley's new book? Sure, I said. I maybe was not prepared.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
I wasn't really anticipating getting emotionally bullied by a book at 11 p.m. while laying in my bed. I didn't read the synopsis before starting, like not the full. I just saw a daring new mystery about a foster teen claiming her heritage on her own terms. So I jumped into this, and then something happens kind of earlier on relating to, and you know this if you read the synopsis, the actual synopsis, you know that there's some overlap between this book and Firekeepers Daughter, which I was not anticipating. And then there's like some very significant overlap between this and Firekeepers Daughter, and I gasped a gusp that I didn't know I could guess. What? So the synopsis says, ever since Lucy Smith's father died 5 years ago, home has been more of an idea than a place. She knows being on the run is better than anything waiting for her as a ward of the state, but when sharp-eyed and kind Mr. Jameson, with an interest for her case, comes looking for her, Lucy wonders if hiding from her past will ever truly keep her safe. 5 years in the foster system has taught her to be cautious and smart, but she wants to believe Mr. Jameson and his friend not friend, a tall and fierce-looking woman who say they want to look after her. They also tell Lucy the truth her father hid from her. She is Ojibwe, and she has had a sister and more siblings, a grandmother who'd look after her, and a home where she would be loved. But Lucy is being followed. The past has destroyed any chance at safety she had. Will the secrets she's hiding swallow her whole and take away any hope for the future she's always dreamed of? When the past comes for revenge, it's fight or flight. Oh, it's fight or flight, all right. No, actually, it's like both at once. it's fight and flight. That's like very specifically Lucy. Fight and flight. It's not a secret that I struggle with foster care stories. I've talked about this before because my grandpa was a child in foster care from the time he was a baby to the time that he was 18. He was in 17 different foster care homes and he was never adopted. And I thought that that was going to be the reason for my downfall reading this if I had one. Nope. No. Afraid not. I love the characters from Firekeepers Daughter. I have read that twice. It is a 5-star through and through. Seeing them be here, but not only be here, but play a pivotal role was huge for me. I wanted to see where their story would end up upon finishing Firekeepers Daughter, and I got that here. But now we also have Lucy, who's a very complex character whose story unravels in brutal layer after layer, and you just want to reach in and pull her out. Like, you just want to be like, it's gonna be all right. Her life before her dad passed was so specific. He kept her very sheltered. He was kind of a religious guy, Catholic, I believe, and he had some like very specific ideas on how, you know, Lucy should be raised. He didn't ever tell her that her mother was Native. He kept her pretty sheltered. We are learning at first what happened with her dad in this very sheltered upbringing that was not perfect, but it was full of love. And then her life after her dad passes is so painful. And though she is self-sufficient, life loves to kick the shit out of Lucy. This teenage girl goes from this like very sheltered upbringing to navigating the foster care system over a series of events that are just like one adult letting her down after the other, which is also what happened with my grandpa. His foster care file is like this thick, and reading through it is so hard. So this did feel like that in a way. And there's so much in there that like I will never know. It's mostly just notes and letters. And there's so much that I'll never know that is probably extremely painful. And so it's hard for me to read, it's hard for me to read foster care stories because of that. But that actually was not the reason that I had a complete breakdown in my bed at 11 p.m. I just don't know why Angeline had to do that to me.
Let me say something. Let me say something.
It's fine. Let's just get back to what I was saying. So her dad passes, Lucy ends up in the foster care system, and she never settles down. She goes from one place to another. She's constantly running, but we don't know exactly who she's running from. We learn that throughout the story in a way that for a bit in the middle, it did feel like this was dragging. And Lucy's perception of Donis, who's the main character in Firekeepers Daughter, was just not who I knew Donis to be. And I was kind of frustrated with this, but I should have trusted Angeline, because at 65%, you have this conversation between Lucy and Donis and you suddenly realize, why am I crying? Stop. You suddenly realize, oh, Donis is exactly who Donis has always been. We've been seeing her through Lucy's perspective, and Lucy is a teenage girl. Donis is still Donis. This is the perception of an angry and jaded teenager who desperately needs a Donis. And Donis is now Donis in the most Donis way possible. I love Donis Fontaine. That's when I realized that I was really gonna like this book. But just like another one of my favorite authors is Kelly Andrew. I love Your Blood, My Bones, and I really liked I Am Made of Death, and I liked Kelly Andrew's first book, The Whispering Dark. I don't know that you will find that Your Blood, My Bones and I Am Made of Death hit the same without the context of The Whispering Dark. So I'm not sure if this book will hit those emotional moments for you if you don't read Firekeepers Daughter first. For me, this is a 5-star story that I could never predict where it was going. I had no idea who was after Lucy or why, and then so much happened, especially from like 65% on, that I ended up just sobbing in my bed at 11 p.m. at the conclusion. It was really bittersweet. No, bitch, don't do this to yourself. It was really bittersweet at the end, and I can try to do like a more full breakdown if you would like, but I will actually have an emotional breakdown if I continue here. So that's one of those videos that I'll have to do with no makeup on. I'm like trying to will the tears back into my eyeballs now. I don't know what to say about this. That leaves The Mosquito by B.A. Paris. What can you say about such a thing? The Mosquito by B.A. Paris invites you to say, hey, do you want to read something that feels like that moment where a mosquito keeps biting you and you're about to blow a fuse and then you just absolutely fucking snap? This is part of a collection of stories that's about people being pushed to their limit. And in this particular story, our main character is Michael, who has just been through a separation initiated by his wife, which basically happened because he's sort of a pushover. Like, he doesn't really ever take like initiative or like say, this is what I want to do. He just sort of like, he is a doormat and she's tired of it. He'll say, I want X for dinner. And she'll say, well, I want Y for dinner. And he says, okay, let's do Y. That's like one reason why she gave, like, he's just too much of a pushover and she just feels like they're boring and incompatible. So he's recently separated. He tries to go on a relaxing getaway with some people that he knows, but his plans are thwarted by the presence of a guy named Rupert and the constant presence of mosquitoes. Rupert is constantly bothering Michael. He's constantly like making fun of Michael. He's constantly around. He's buzzing around constantly, just like a fucking mosquito. And Rupert is also, come to find out, not, while he's making fun of Michael, he's actually not as like well off in his own relationship as he like lets on. He's dealing with personal loss as well. He's not in the best frame of mind, making him like a source of irritation for Michael, even more than he normally would be. So this physical discomfort and annoyance of the mosquitoes I mean, Michael's like waking up with mosquito bites all over his face. They add to Michael's constant strained state, and Michael's normally like really flat, level-headed, doesn't blow up, and his vacation is becoming increasingly more and more miserable. And the reader, as a result, even though Michael has not snapped yet, you're waiting for it because you're getting more and more and more like riled up and feeling the stress. This is the opposite of a cozy. I just did a video on cozy. This is the opposite of cozy. This is like, do you want to feel stressed until you snap? Read The Mosquito. This is about how seemingly small annoyances can somehow even break the most stoic person. How when they build up and build up and build up and you're trying to like bat them away and you're like, I'll ignore it until it just boils over. It all just boils over. I didn't love it the way that I love other short stories, but it did what it set out to do. It led you on this trail of like, slow buzzing around you, and then all of a sudden it's like it's so loud and I'm just gonna snap, and then the end is Michael snapping and then still just being like, nothing happened, it's fine. Who said I wasn't fine? Again, didn't love it like I love other short stories. I'm always thinking about you, Six Deaths of the Saint, but it made me feel extremely tense, did what it was trying to do, so for that, I'll give it a 4. I know, I was so nice today. Where are all the people saying, do you even like anything you read? Look at that! All 4 and 5 stars today. Where are you now? Let's hear from ya. In all seriousness, I really hope you guys will pre-order Angeline Bowley's new book. That was rude. That was pretty fucking rude. It broke my heart. But do you like having your heart broken? Because if so, you're welcome. I just recommended you the perfect book. If you made it this far, leave an emoji related to which of these books you are most looking forward to reading, or if you have read them, leave me a comment down below. Or if you're a fan of Firekeepers Daughter, leave a fire emoji down below. Firekeepers Daughter, by the way, is a banned book. Bruce Friedman in Clay County, Florida hates that book, and I'm sure my county's on the way to banning it too. It's already off shelves for the summer while librarians reevaluate whether or not it's appropriate for the teenagers that it was written for. What the fuck? And I'm sure that Sisters in the Wind will be the same thing. They'll be saying this isn't appropriate for teenagers, even though it reflects the lived reality of many teenagers. Anyways, sorry to end on that note. Okay, comments and questions go down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi, before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Ashley H, Beck, Call Me Kodiak, Choco's Homesick for Taiwan, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Eric D, Jade, Jill, John E, Jory, Julie, Kai Brecker has not read Six of Crows, Kalane OK, Katya, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips Loves Pride, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Other Lex, Lily, Maddie Miss, Megwin Rose, Melissa, Mixer Boneless, Not So Secretly a Skeleton, Peggy Lou Who, Piloting SRN, Rain, Ree, SJ, Samar, Scarlet, Steph B, 3 Raccoons in a Trench Coat, Urchin Audrey, and White Raven 13. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. Huge thank you to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, Aaron, Alejandra, Alicia, Bobisha, Banana, Fofana, Fofisha. What are we doing? Alicia, Althea, Amanda D, Andy, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Barry, Baywing, Beck, Blue Moon Syrup, Bookish by Jenna, Bookish Rabbit, Bridget 108, Kate B, Caitlin, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate, Kathy, Celeste, Che, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic Frog, Courtney, Darius, Danielle, Danita, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorothea Supports Public Education, Draco-chan, Drive-By Thinker, Ebby, Emma, Aaron with 2 E's, Erica May, Aaron Starlight, Fox Waifu, Francis, Gadarn, Hannah C, Helen P, Hurry Singh, JM Tennant, Jackalope Max, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Jesse Ives, Jessa Sue, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, Caitlin M, Katie L, Katrina, Kayla, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, Kiara, KMTB, Kayana, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura is Angry, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Lindsay M, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Mataraptor, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Megan, Malara, Mima Who, Morgan the Friendly Ghost, Myth Lesbian, NM Rap, Natural Blues, Nicole G, Paige P, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pick a God and Pray, Plague Carrier, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rach, Rachel B, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Ren Flynn, Rhea, Reese, Ronnie, Rosie, Sikoria, Saintbringer, Sakya Lume, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shamed, Shannon, Sheen Onion, Sean, Sophie, Talia, That One Cute Chick, This Is Not a Trap, Too Thick to Work Tomorrow, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, and Unicorn Jenny. Thank you all so much for being a friend.